guys, this is Francie from the MDC here. First of all, the MDC hopes that you guys are all doing well in self-isolation, that you are healthy and safe, and that your remote studies are doing well. So we are bringing a very special online event series to you, and we have our first online speaker here, which is Heather. Very nice to meet you. Would you mind introducing yourself very quick?
Thanks, Francisca. I'm Heather Cornish. I'm the Events and Marketing Director at Conventions and Incentives New Zealand. I've had a long career in the tourism sector, focusing on marketing and branding.
Awesome. Really nice to have you. So, we are going to focus on your career in the tourism sector today a little bit, but we would like to see where it all started with your career, focusing on your studies. So would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, like many of you, I studied at Auckland University.
Nice.
And I did a BA BCom, and I majored in economics and German, and I also did quite a lot of marketing papers as well. And I know you guys are in a marketing club, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Marketing and design.
Perfect. I wasn't terribly involved in clubs, but I did get a little bit involved with ISEC. A lot of my friends were in that, but that was because they offered internships overseas, and I found the idea of travelling enormously appealing at that age.
Oh yeah, so that started sort of quite early on, your interest in different cultures and...
Yes, and learning languages, of course. When you learn languages, you automatically become immersed in other cultures.
Yeah, oh, that's great. And once you graduated, what was your career like after that? Or how did you get from being a graduate at Auckland Uni to where you are today and working in the tourism industry?
Well, it's been a long journey, but fun. Lots of fun the whole way. Initially, I had a year off. And I went to Europe between years 3 and 4 of my degree. Then I came back and finished the BCom component. And my first job was I was hired as a graduate trainee at Air New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Their graduate program, yeah. And my first real job was to relaunch their in-flight duty-free service and our sales, which I got to overhaul an entire business unit, which was quite rare for a graduate to get that.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a lot of responsibility for a graduate.
It was a fabulous opportunity, and because I'd worked in all the departments, I knew how they all worked, so it was useful. But our sales went up 1,000% in 2 years, from 600,000 to 6 million.
Wow!
And so I got promoted. I got sent across to Sydney, to the Sydney office after that. Yeah, so that's how it started. In Sydney, I was a product manager on the Tasman. And then I was headhunted to Tourism New Zealand as a marketing manager there. And then I became the regional manager and ran the whole of the Australian operation. After a few years, 4 or so years, I got bored. So I went to Asia with Parmalat, which is an Italian milk company, in a business development role. And that was a move into FMCG. And I didn't like it. I like service sector, I discovered. And so eventually I went back to that. I wound up at IHG, which is Intercontinental Hotel Group. And I did that for about 8 years. I was either a director of sales and marketing on property. I worked in 2 hotels, one in Bali, the Intercontinental in Bali, and the Intercontinental in Fiji. In between, though, I was also a director of brand management for the Intercontinental brand across Asia Pacific. And my last role there was as the head of global brand management for resorts for IHG.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a good job. Wonderful, wonderful roles. And then once we returned to New Zealand, I got a role here. It's a much smaller market here, so there are not as many opportunities. But I got a role with Conventions and Incentives New Zealand, and in doing that, I suddenly became an event manager. Currently, I run a big trade show and event every year with, gala dinners for 600, 700, which is quite a different ballgame, but lots of fun as well.
Nice. So you collected quite a lot of experiences in some sort of different areas, but mainly tourism. From what it sounds, you traveled around quite a bit. And you mentioned you work in Asia. You mentioned that you have an interest sort of in Europe, in Germany. What is it like for you to work, especially in the tourism industry, with people from so many diverse cultures? What do you think is like the greatest opportunity in this area, but also the greatest challenge?
Well, I loved it, and that was one of the reasons I moved. I worked in 8 countries overseas overall. I just found it very culturally enriching. It's very interesting to do that, to get to understand cultures. People are always very keen to share their culture, so if you show interest in it, they will respond, so that helps. Humour is always great, cuts across cultural divides, and food does as well.
So definitely.
That was easy. Challenging, it can be challenging just getting to understand a culture, particularly in Asia where people are very reticent about saying no. I learned that, for example, one year I was in a hotel and I asked a staff member something and they went away and they never came back because they couldn't come back and say, no, it's not possible. So you get to learn that if you're not going to get a direct yes, then the answer is actually no, but they can't tell you.
So the key is to just see what the different cultures are like and to try to adapt to it.
I think also being a Kiwi, we're quite egalitarian, quite humble relatively. And I remember once I was visiting my old hotel in Bali years later, and the director of rooms said to me, "Ibu, you never made us feel your seniority." And that was a nice compliment, I thought, for a Kiwi, but quite common, I think. Kiwis are like that.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Awesome. That's some really great insight that you shared so far. And now we would like to look at the work that you did for Intercontinental that you mentioned. So you were so kind to share with us, and I'm going to share with the rest of you guys some work that you did for Intercontinental.
Yes, there's two comments to make. I want to talk just today about a role as a brand director. So in this role, I was a brand director across Asia Pacific, and I was developing specifically advertising and templates that hotels could use when they were resorts. When you're doing this, you're templating so that a hotel sales manager who knows not much about marketing can use these guidelines and not mess up the brand, basically, so that they can't go wrong. So you're making these guidelines foolproof. So we explain the brand, we explain the creative idea. In the case of Intercontinental, it was being in the know, so expressing insider knowledge and giving people very much authentic and enriching experiences. So we talk about the tone of voice that needs to be used in any copywriting, colour palette that they can use. We had choices for different resorts, the font, the logo, the call to action, and then we developed effectively a whole lot of ads. So there's press ads, so print ads, tactical promotions, email banners, direct mail, etc. And here are a few examples. This one, and you'll see two formats. One was a 1/3 format, one was a 2/3 format. You'll see the different types. The sort of photography is very intimate. We would never show the guest looking at the camera. They're always just engrossed in the moment. We're a fly on the wall. We're just capturing the scene. So I never shot with a model looking to camera.
So were these actual models, or were these actual hotel guests that you just chose as your models?
No, these are models. Yeah, we've done full hair and makeup and clothing, all of that in these shots generally. Then we had headlines, and the headlines were always quite thoughtful because the brand was quite thoughtful. The first one says, "Some legends just get better." That was a hotel that was rebranded to an Intercon, but it had been a historic hotel. Things like "The shortest breaks can lead to the longest memories." Luxury has a new expression in Fiji, which was the opening of that hotel. So you can just get a sense. We gave them the headlines. Sometimes a hotel person would ring me up and say, "What do you think of this headline?" And I'd say, I'd have to say, "It's great," or "No, tweak it to this." But by giving them all of this kit, there's about, 100 pages here in this document.
Yeah.
You can cover off most scenarios and help them with the promotions so that they represent the brand correctly.
Yeah, so it sounds like one of your key roles was really to ensure that there's consistency in the brand and that everything sort of flows together to a coherent brand image.
Correct, exactly right. And at the hotel level, the typical path through to a director of sales and marketing is through the sales channel. Often people are salespeople and they finally get promoted to director of sales and marketing and they don't know how to do marketing really. So this sort of stuff, which we did as trained marketers, is brand management effectively, and we were giving them enough guidelines so they couldn't go wrong.
And do you feel like this template that you generated was used quite successfully? Did it work quite well? Did people pick up the guidelines?
Oh, they had to. They had no choice, but they all did, and they did find them helpful.
That's great.
And then we also did lots of ads for different periods. So, for example, Valentine's Day or Christmas or Easter or Mother's Day. There'd be smaller tactical ads that they might use for those sort of periods. So we've covered off all of those events too. So they really have something for any occasion they need.
Yeah, definitely, to allow for some flexibility in that template.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing that with us. A couple of final questions I think that a lot of students will be interested in. Do you have some tips, especially for marketing students who aspire to work in the field of tourism and travel?
Biggest thing if you want to work in travel is you have to like people. We're very much an extrovert sector. Everybody's a people person. They're a sector of extroverts. So the other thing is it's not terribly well paid, but you can travel with it. And that was enormously appealing to me. And if you want to see the world, if you get into a big hotel group, you can generally move around. Similarly with airlines to some extent. So those are some of the benefits or the advantages of it. But it's not the finance sector where you get paid a lot more.
Yeah, but you get paid in experience and travel experience and meeting new people. Yeah.
Exactly. I found it, to work in 8 countries and get to know 8 different cultures, I loved that. I have no regrets about it at all, but that's just something to be aware of.
So it sounds like soft skills and people skills are really important when it comes to the travel and tourism industry.
Digital marketing is becoming increasingly important, so that's certainly a skill set that can be used well. In the hotel business, when I first started, I didn't join the hotel business earlier in my career because it was sales focused only, and it was really only in the last 15 to 20 years that they've discovered branding and started to do that properly. So early on in my career, I just found that frustrating and I wouldn't go there. It did get better, as you can see. They're now very structured and very good at what they're doing now. The only other piece of advice I would really have to people is to do what you love. You're going to spend a long time doing it, and it really helps if you're passionate about what you do and love it. You really want to enjoy it. I've loved every minute of what I've done, working in 8 countries and getting to see the world. So, that was just an amazing experience.
Yeah, and I think that really came across, that passion for the industry that you worked in. So thanks very much for sharing that with us and for giving our club members some really great insights into your career. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Take care.